stream as well. So let's talk about what is going on in the reconciliation bill. So week, I discussed quite a little bit about what I love about the reconciliation bill. Now, remember, the reconciliation bill does not have a lot of things that I am a huge advocate of, namely healthcare coverage that covers every single person. The reconciliation bill doesn't go so far as to cover every single person, right? But there are lots of other things in here that is extremely essential for working families, especially the bottom 50% of our country. And these things will really make a huge difference in their lives. So I went over all the things that I love about it. Of course, there are things like student loans, for example, which are going to start up again really soon. Will people be able to actually pay them with all that's going on? There are lots of challenges that we need to solve that are not on the reconciliation bill, but let's at least talk about what is in the reconciliation bill and how it can help working families, not just in Texas, but all across this country. So these are some of the things that we've been talking about. Universal pre-K, this is for 3 and 4-year-olds. We're talking about permanent child tax credits, expansion of Medicare to cover, hearing aids, eyeglasses, and things like dental work, which can be really, really expensive. Lowering the prescription drug prices, which many Democrats across this country have been running on, basically allowing Medicare to be able to negotiate drug prices so that we are not paying 2.5 times, 10 times, 20 times more for the exact same prescription drugs that everybody else in the world has available to them at much cheaper rates, right? So this is a huge deal, and it really, really impacts a lot of people, but most importantly, people who are 65 and over. There's climate mitigation, provisions in this bill that are extremely important, especially if you're following what is going on and the damage from climate change and the repercussions from that are going to be something extremely devastating, and we will not be able to fully reverse climate change. We're talking about mitigation now. That's where we are. We're talking about also things like paid leave in here, which most working people who work 2 to 3 jobs, even if they work up to 60 hours a week in multiple jobs, unless you work for a major corporation or maybe the federal government, you wouldn't get paid leave. And this has been a huge topic of discussion because Secretary Pete Buttigieg took paid leave to bond with children that have adopted, and the GOP has been very critical of that, even though that is something that is essential to every single family to be able to get paid leave to take care of their family. Because at the end of the day, we all work to have a better life for our family, to spend time with our family, and to enjoy our life here on this earth. And so this is a really essential thing that people who work in hourly jobs do not absolutely get. And unless you work for a major corporation, you may have never gotten paid leave or have the ability to get it. But it's a game changer and it's a life changer for working people. And of course, my absolute favorite out of the reconciliation bill is tuition-free community college, which I discussed in length last time, saying how important it is. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about how important this is as we talk about Striketober, because this became part of the discussion today, and I'll share that with you in a second. So what is happening with the reconciliation bill? So this is just posted, a little over an hour ago by one of the reporters out of Capitol Hill. And he reports that the House Ways and Means Chair, Richard Neal, met with Senator Sinema, he's talking about here, and called it a very cordial conversation. She's in on renewables. This is a quote, so this is actual things that are happening. She is in on the issue of child credit, and she is in on family medical leave, and that's the way she ranked them. So this is good news that she's in on these things. What we've heard in the past is that Senator Sinema has been opposed to prescription drug price lowering of that. Number one, that has been something that's come up multiple times, but it seems like she is on board with the other parts of the reconciliation bill. However, this week was full of drama between senators in Congress. So there were some, conversations between Senator Bernie Sanders, who is the budget chairman of the Senate right now, budget committee chairman. And so he's playing a leading role in getting the reconciliation bill formulated and across the finish line for Americans across this country. However, as we have spoken before, Senator Manchin has been opposed to many of these programs. So he said pick 1 out of 3 at one time. Another time he said that he does not see these items in here, specifically things like the child tax credit, should be allowed without a work requirement, right? So he wants stringent means testing. One of the things that came up that he wanted was that he wanted a minimum, a maximum pay of $60,000, where a family earning any more than $60,000 basically wouldn't get this child tax credit, right? And here's the problem with that. $60,000 in a rural community in a small town may be sufficient to get by. It's definitely not a thriving wage for a family, if you think about it. If you have a family of 4, $60,000, you're barely kind of getting by. You're bringing in less than actual $5,000 of usable money after you pay your taxes and your FICA taxes are removed. If you get $60K, you know how much that is, right? That's very limited amount of money to raise a family on. Now, imagine making $60K in a major big city like San Francisco, New York City, or one of the top 10 cities, right? Or even in Austin, Texas. If you make $60,000, you're barely getting by. You definitely can't afford a home. And you can't afford childcare on $60,000. It's just not possible. So this cap of saying that you should only be giving this ability to get child tax credits, which is right now somewhere between $250 to $300 a month. That's a credit. It just gets deposited in your account and you have that available. So if you're a family of 4, let's say you have 2 children, that could mean $500 a month. That really is helpful towards your grocery bill, for example. And I've said this over and over again that when you take this away and you put an absolute maximum work requirement, then you are taking this benefit away from working families in large cities where $60,000 is not even enough to survive on. They can't even afford an apartment in the city. They have to live 2 to 3 hours away. They're commuting 2, 3, 4 hours a day just to be able to work and take care of their family. And that's why it is so important for us not to have a cap and not to be means tested. Now, some of these things are already means tested, but Senator Manchin has been very, very opposed to just giving child tax credit without any kind of testing. So, when we talk about all of this, then what Senator Bernie Sanders has been doing is he's been going around the country talking about what is in the reconciliation bill so that Americans understand why it is so important to them, just like I've been going over it with you guys. Now, he wrote an op-ed in one of the major newspapers in West Virginia, which is the state that Senator Manchin is from, and he explained what is in here in this reconciliation bill and why it would help American families, because West Virginia is actually a very poor state in the sense that people who live and work in West Virginia in general have a low income and they're very much struggling to raise their families, and their opportunities for job growth and being able to really live a full life is very, very limited. And what Senator Sanders did after he did that, this made Senator Manchin somewhat irked, I believe. And so they had some tense meetings over this week, and this was reported. Now, the sad part of all this is, as you all know, that I am a huge advocate of education, because this is a way for people to really climb out of poverty, to get high wage jobs, and to bring real change in their families. Sometimes not even just their immediate families, but across the entire family. When you have the first person that goes to college and gets a high wage job, they in turn reach out and help their parents, their other siblings, and it really has transformational change in many different families. So one of the things that Senator Manchin is now saying this week is that he does not support free community college. And of course, there were some language, exchange between them that is almost, even difficult to talk about. The BS word has been thrown around and the F word has been thrown around in these closed meetings, but they have kind of escaped into the wild. So before we go on to where we are, let's just look at the article that is on there. So there's multiple articles. Politico wrote this article earlier today. You can see here Senator Manchin and Senator Sanders had a blow up, but it helped unstick the Dems agenda. So having these conversations has really changed. So one of the things this article specifically talks about is talking about this tuition-free community college. So you can see here that this article says that Manchin laid out what he could accept to Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's team. Universal pre-K was in, he said, but no tuition-free community college, right? Senator Sanders was not pleased. I'm obviously not pleased because, as you know, community college is a big deal. And I'm going to go into a little bit more why, and I'm going to give you a really great example to show you why tuition-free community college makes a huge difference. So, of course, there's obviously some language here, interesting language here in this article. But shortly after this blow up in a meeting, Senator Manchin and Sanders met privately. They even posed for a photo together, and they publicly reconciled. So let's hope that some of this does get back in there. So you can go read all of this article. One of the biggest challenges, however, is this original $3.5 trillion target price really has been scaled down. So we've heard that it's going to be between 1.8 and 2.2, and so there's definitely a lot of back and forth in this. And of course, this is over 10 years. Some of it's upfront, but it's over 10 years. And there's another story here, reporting on this heated closed door, event that happened, and what is actually happening between them. So between the two senators, they're trying to come to an actual understanding of this bill and agree on a bill. So again, I'm going to share this tweet with you. This was shared a little bit earlier today, and you can see that they are talking about Representative Jayapal. And Representative Jayapal is the chair of the Progressive Caucus, so the Congressional Progressive Caucus, also known as the CPC. And what she is saying is, look, is this falling apart? Is it getting further apart? And she's saying, no, I don't think so. This is just how negotiations work. Not everything you hear is true, and it will just take a while to put together, but I still feel good. So what is the result of all of this? These are the key things in here that will make a huge difference to working families. So if you do want to take action on this, it is absolutely important for you to call your representative, especially if you have a Democratic representative or you have a Democratic senator. So if you're watching this from West Virginia or Arizona, you want to call your senator because they do have staff and they will listen and they represent you. That is their job, to represent you, right? That's precisely their job. So if you have a Democratic senator or a Democratic representative, it is really important for every single one of us to make a call and say, we want to see all of these things in here, not only because these are completely paid for, but more importantly, these are huge investments in the American family, and the return on these investments are boundless. They are boundless. Senator Manchin has no idea that investing in people's education is going to change the trajectory of this country and people's lives in the ways we cannot imagine. We absolutely cannot imagine. And I'm going to go into a little bit about that education piece as I talk through today. But that's the best thing that we can do right now. we can make it very clear that these are very important things. And these are not extravagant things that we're doing for American families. We're talking about childcare. We're talking about solving child hunger here, giving them these tax credits. We're talking about universal pre-K, which is shown to be amazing for children as they grow up and become young adults. We're talking about lowering prescription drug prices. This is research and development that we as American taxpayers have already paid for. Right? And we're paying again. We're basically subsidizing the entire world by ensuring that big pharma has huge profits. And it's very, very important for us to ensure that Medicare can negotiate these prices. So these are extremely important things that we should all care about and know what's going on and advocate for. And so if you haven't heard of what's in the reconciliation bill, it's important for you to spread this, share the video, let people know what's in there and why it's important.